Everyone, this is the Next Day Podcast, episode 119, with Mikel and
Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So, we're just gonna be chilling here, talking about three topics. What's the three topics we're gonna be talking about today, Tanyka?
So today we're going to be talking about a casino being fined $120,000 over alleged cheating scheme.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about the Lost Boys of Pickering, which I've never heard of this before.
Hmm.
And we're also going to be talking about a mom who was last seen 60 years ago, and she's alive and well. So we're going to be
Okay.
talking about
All
this
right.
missing person,
Okay.
quote unquote. Okay,
Let's get to it.
so a
Mm-hmm.
Toronto casino is facing a $120,000 fine after the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario alleged staff failed to detect a cheating scheme that involved two dealers and a
Mm-hmm.
group of casino patrons. In a news release issued, the AGCO said Ontario Provincial Police laid charges in March of 2024 against 5 individuals in connection with the alleged scheme. Quote, the charges followed an investigation into allegations that two table game dealers at Great Canadian Casino Resort Toronto were in collusion with a group of casino patrons.
Mm-hmm.
The AGCO conducted a subsequent compliance review and confirmed that the dealers had engaged in a cheat scheme on multiple occasions with the same group of patrons, leading to nearly $20,000 in illicit winnings in less than 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
According to the commission, the alleged scheme involved various dealer cheat moves, including intentionally exposing cards that were supposed to remain face down, as
Mm-hmm.
well as inappropriately overdrawing the dealer's cards and issuing overpayments on winning hands. The AGCO stated that its review found that surveillance and supervisory pit staff failed to detect the alleged cheat scheme. Further, the review determined that casino staff failed to follow proper table games audit procedures, which are intended to ensure rules of play are followed by dealers and patrons. It added that this is the second recent incident at the casino that involved allegations about cheating and dealer collusion. Ontario's registered casino operators have an obligation to ensure the integrity of gameplay in their casinos. And this was said by Karen Schnarr, who's the AGCO's chief executive officer and registrar, said in a written statement accompanying the news release.
Mm-hmm.
This includes responsibility to detect and prevent collusion and cheating. The AGCO will continue to monitor and take all necessary steps to uphold the integrity of gaming in Ontario's gaming sites. The AGCO noted that the casino has the right to appeal the registrar's decision. So maybe they will. I don't know. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see if there's maybe an update later. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been in many casinos. I've only been in one, and that's the one that's the Pickering one.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I have never been to one. I've
it's
never been to one, yeah.
honestly, it's a lot of fun.
Is it?
As long as you are staying within whatever limits, and I do believe you, when
Mm-hmm.
going into a casino, you should be limiting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I only went the one time, and it was probably about 2 years ago now. And it is exciting when you walk in there. There's all the lights, it just draws you in, and that's the whole point, right? Because they want your money.
Yeah, they want,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
but it is a lot of fun to even just do it one time. My mom, like, she won a lot of money. Not like a lot, but like
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
she definitely made a profit going into the casino. She probably our limits was probably about $60 to $70. My mom walked out of there with over $100. Me and my brother were, because my mom was gonna go again. Me and my brother were like, nope, nope, you're done. You won, you good.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
whereas
because
me and my brother lost money.
yeah, it could get that thing as soon as
It
you win.
can, yeah.
Yeah. You get
Um,
that high up for winning more, and then
yeah,
you go again, you lose, and
yeah,
you're just like, yeah, I'm not doing this again.
exactly. And my mom was on a winning streak.
Yeah,
So we're like,
yeah,
let's stop it now and let's go. Um, but
yeah.
what I did notice at the casino there was it's all electronically manned. Like we were doing mostly slots, but if
Mhm.
you were to do like poker or blackjack or something like that, I don't know if they had blackjack, but they definitely had poker. Um, the table is electronically manned.
Mhm.
It's there's not a person, as you would normally see, manning a table. It's just all
So,
electronic,
so basically I would say
basically. And I think,
AI type of system. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and I think honestly,
yeah.
I mean, anything can be hacked. Obviously, AI system can be hacked,
Mhm.
but based on this,
Mhm.
maybe that is the way it needs to go, so that
Yeah, yeah.
it's a little harder for these collusions to happen, and then
Mhm.
the casino is at fault for not, you know,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my theory is like I wonder if there's a conspiracy theory here with your mom that they're probably targeting her to try to get her to lose that
Well,
they'll
as
probably
we know,
monitor her and then monitor like get her to
right,
lose one.
right, as we know, I mean,
Yeah.
a little $100
Yeah.
win isn't anything to worry about,
Yeah.
in terms of from the house's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't always know, right? The house always wins,
Mhm.
right? That's the whole point of it. It's why you
Yeah.
can get lost
Yeah.
in it. It's why people lose a lot
Yeah.
of money
Yeah.
gambling,
Yeah.
is because the house is always going to win.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it always brings me back to the scene in Rush Hour 2
Yeah.
when Chris Tucker is winning like all the money and the house is
Mhm.
just drawing in on him. And that was the whole
Mhm.
idea, right? Was that
Mhm.
he's winning all this money, he's causing attention to himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's focusing on him because the
Mhm.
house doesn't want to give him what was it, like $3,000 that he won. And
Mhm.
that's a lot of money back then. They don't
Mhm.
want to give him that. That's too much
Mhm.
money for the house to
Mhm.
be giving away to
Mhm.
somebody, right?
Mhm.
So yes, there is always that. But my mom, in her case, it's only $100. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they would come down and just say, "We're security. I think you owe us some type of money. $30 right there. I don't
Listen,
think we did
we
it."
gave you between the three of us, we
Yeah.
most likely gave them like almost $200,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So we made a profit. Come on now. It's
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm.
$100 versus like
Yeah.
again, like yeah,
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
eighty. Yeah, so like come on.
Mhm. Yeah.
Anyway, um, so let's move on to the next one. So this one's really interesting because I've never heard of this, and this is a local situation, and I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
So 30 years ago, in the early hours of March 17th,
Mhm.
six teenage boys vanished in Pickering after a night of partying. In the 3 decades that have followed, there's been no evidence that proves what happened to the teenage boys.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
anybody knows what happened to Jay Boyle, Michael Cummins, Danny
Right.
Higgins, Chad Smith, Robbie Rumboltz, and
Mhm.
Jamie Lebrev, they haven't come forward. So this St. Patrick's Day marks, well, this was St. Patrick's Day, so this is as of, I guess, yeah, March 17th,
Mhm.
marked 30 years from the day that has become infamous in the Pickering community, which was on March 17th, 1995, the last day any of the boys were seen. So despite the years stretching on, people all over the world are still interested in this haunting case. Aside from the sheer fact that six people seem to have just vanished into thin air, there were other interesting, some claim troubling aspects of this case that keep it a talking point, which again, not for me, because I've never heard of this. Nicole, you live in Pickering. Have you ever heard of this?
See, my mom would have heard that, and I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard
Yeah.
anything
Like,
like
when
that.
did you guys move to Pickering?
Back in 1999 of September. So,
Okay. So
which,
only 4 years after this
yeah.
happened, um, again, like I was living in Ajax, but anyone
Mm.
that knows how like the geography works here. That's just a stone throw away from Pickering, and I've never heard of this.
Uh-huh.
Like I lived in Pickering for a short time, but I did live in Pickering for about a year
Hmm.
when I was like 10 to about 11. So I've never heard of this.
Nope.
Um, so it took 36 hours um, for Durham police to start searching Lake Ontario for the boys, since police first received phone calls that they were missing. The search was called off after 36 hours. So just to make that make sense to everybody, we don't know exactly when they were reported as missing. And again, uh, these are teenage boys.
Hmm.
They could have literally been told, oh, maybe they ran away. Because if you have that narrative in your head as police officers, you're not going to search for them because you think they're runaways. But then again, when there's six of them, like that's an interesting situation here, and they all came from the same party. But it took them 36 hours to from the point of missing to the point of searching to search Lake Ontario, which I don't know if there's significance with that if the party was at Lake Ontario. Um, and then it only lasted for 36 hours too. So that doesn't seem like a long time to me.
Uh-huh.
Um, but anyway, I don't know. Um, and it's not like there's creatures in the lake that would have like eaten them or something. Like they would be in
Mhm.
there, right? If they were ever put in there.
Right.
Um, so thousands of volunteers, both in the air, on the water, and nearby, searched for the boys who were known to police, but an underwater search was never conducted. Which, what? Why? If they're in there, even if it's, I mean, to me, when it's six boys, that sounds like potential, like something happened to them, not accidental, like something
Mhm.
happened. Um, so if they're in there, potentially, why wouldn't you do an underwater search, even if it's only one or two of them? Why wouldn't you do that? I know it's a
Uh,
lot of money to do the search, but why not do it?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's probably yeah, like you said, it's a lot of money. It's expensive.
I get that, but these are six teenage boys.
Hmm.
Their families deserve to have
Justice.
had everything done to search for them. And the only way a proper underwater search can be done is from the city's perspective. That's the only
Hmm.
way that this is going to get done.
Hmm.
So why wouldn't they have done that?
I don't know. Mm.
Um, just three of the boys, Michael, Jamie, and Robbie, were spotted on video surveillance entering the East Shore Marina on Frenchman's Bay after they had left a party. So only three of them. The
Mm.
other three are not there. This was at 1:48 a.m. Despite no sign of Jay, Chad, or Danny on the tape, Durham police believe all six of the boys stole a 14-foot Boston Whaler replica and a water tricycle and died of hypothermia in the frigid waters of Lake Ontario after their boat capsized. Again,
Mm.
possible. These are teenage boys that are going to do stupid. So it's very possible. But you still have, like, they still should be searching for them
Mhm.
properly. But there have been no bodies, no clothing, or no boats that have been officially tied to the group of friends.
Mhm.
Police believe a gas can that was found 11 days later in Wilson, New York, okay,
Mhm.
belonged to the replica Boston Whaler. It was identified by a small dent.
Interesting.
It was interesting, so that went all the way over to New York. Um, but late private investigator Bruce Ricketts had several doubts about this assertion, one of them questioning how it landed where it did, when it should have flowed toward Toronto, not New York. Interesting.
Mhm.
A pair of pants that look similar to the red Levi's jeans that Jay Boyle was wearing on the night he had disappeared were also ruled out as belonging to him after a DNA test. They were found in the trash mesh at the Sir Adam Beck hydroelectric generating station next to the Niagara River in Queenston in 1998. But Ricketts also had doubts about this investigation and the continuity of an evidence and wasn't convinced that they weren't Jay's.
Mhm.
So it's really interesting that they're like, Oh, we found this. Oh, it could be linked to him. Oh, but it's not. And then
Hmm.
you have him, this person's kind of being like, I don't know. Like, maybe
Yeah.
it is his. We'll never know. Because again, I'm sure they made multiple for um multiple genes that were these recipe buys, to
Mhm.
make a profit.
Mhm.
So it's possible that it couldn't have been his. So
Yeah. It would be crazy though. It'd be crazy to be.
yeah, and again, like water can destroy evidence.
Mhm.
So there is still that possibility that, like, did they ever find DNA? Did DNA link to somebody else?
Mhm.
That's my question. Because if they found DNA and it linked to somebody else, then okay, fine, it's not his. But if
Mhm.
there's no DNA, then there's nothing saying that it could not have been his, and the water could have just destroyed the evidence.
Mhm.
Ricketts had looked into the case pro bono for more than 13 years before his death in January of 2024, so very recently. He spent several days in 2018 sharing what he knew with the Pickering News advertiser. The family was never granted access to the video surveillance from that night, but not long before his death, Ricketts had gained access to video surveillance that showed other individuals had been at the marina that night as well. He had appealed for them to come forward. There's no word on whether anybody reached out to him. I'm probably going to say they probably didn't.
Mhm.
Ricketts had gone down several paths looking into the possibility of a drug smuggling connection, but he was never able to prove it. Ricketts never concluded his investigation. Since his death, there has been no activity on the Lost Boys of Pickering Facebook page, but the interest is still there. True crime enthusiasts with YouTube channels continue to delve into the case. The mystery is posted on blogs and social media. A lot of people have opinions, but nobody has come forward with answers. But maybe one day family members will get answers, but for now, it remains a cold case. So, anyone with information on the case can call Durham Police at 905-579-1520 or anonymously contact Durham Regional Crime Stoppers by calling 1-800-222-TIPS. That's 1-800-222-8477 or going online to www.durhamregionalcrimestoppers.ca.
Mhm.
And again, like that's the thing. Like, if you're nervous and you don't want to come forward and say anything because maybe you were up to no good, maybe you were, maybe you're scared, maybe, maybe something else happened and you're scared to come forward and say anything, but you
Mhm.
can do so anonymously. So give these families some peace of mind.
Yeah. And justice as well. Yeah.
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 Oh, right. So let's move on to our final topic.
Mhm.
So this is an interesting one because very rarely do you see a missing person go missing and then pop up later on. Usually missing people are usually dead. So this is insane. So a
Mhm.
Wisconsin woman who had not been heard from in over 6 decades has now been found alive and well, according to authorities. So the Sauk County Sheriff's Office announced the resolution in the missing persons case involving Audrey, I think it's Beckberg, on May 2nd. According to a 2020 bulletin on the Wisconsin Missing Persons Advocacy website, Backberg was 20 years old and lived in Reedsburg at the time of her disappearance. On July 7th, 1962, Backberg was married and had two children, left her family's home, and headed for the woolen mill where she worked to pick up her paycheck. The advocacy group said she never returned home, prompting her husband Ronald to reach out to his wife's relatives to inquire about her whereabouts. Wisconsin Missing Persons Advocacy noted that shortly after Backberg went missing, a 14-year-old babysitter for the couple came forward and said that she and Backberg hitchhiked to Madison and then
Mhm.
took a bus to Indianapolis. The babysitter later claimed she didn't want to return home after they arrived in Indianapolis. The woman was last seen walking near a bus stop.
Mhm.
The juvenile was interviewed again as an adult, maybe 15 years ago, Detective Lieutenant Chris Zunker of the Sauk County Sheriff's Office said in the bulletin. She stated Audrey had taken a bunch of pills, but then put them in a Coke can and drank it before taking the bus down to Indianapolis. She reported Audrey potentially hooked up with some construction workers that may have been in the area. Backbur's relatives said their loved one would never leave her children at that time. Ronald passed the polygraph test and maintained his innocence, the bulletin read. Clearly, he didn't do anything.
Mhm.
Investigators have pursued leads over the years, but were unsuccessful in locating her whereabouts, the sheriff's office said. In its latest announcement, officials said that the Backberg case was given to a detective earlier this year for a review as part of the continuing look at cold case files. Through diligent investigative work, which included a thorough reevaluation of all case files and evidence, combined with re-interviewing witnesses and uncovering new insights, the sheriff's office is now able to report that Audrey Backberg is alive and well and currently resides out of state. According to then Sheriff Randy Stamen, Audrey and Ronald's marriage was troubled with allegations of abuse, which were
Mhm.
partly alleged in a criminal complaint that was filed in the days before she vanished. However, she remained at home with her husband and children, the Wisconsin Missing Persons Advocacy said. Now authorities say Beckbrook chose to disappear and there was no criminal activity or foul play. People contacted the Sauk County Sheriff's Office for additional information on May 2nd. The sheriff's office concluded its news release by thanking the investigators, past and present, who worked on the case. Despite the significant challenges that many cold cases present, this resolution underscores both the importance of continued work and the dedication of sheriff's office to providing answers to families and the community. So that's basically it. I mean, it's great to hear some, when missing persons um are fine.
Mhm.
They really truly disappeared themselves. Um, which, you know, police will always say, "Oh, you're an adult. You are allowed to disappear. It is not illegal to disappear." And it's not. It's not illegal to disappear.
Yeah, it's not a
Um,
yeah, it's not illegal to disappear at all. You
yeah,
have the right to.
you have the right.
It's more illegal for a teenager or
It's not even illegal for a teenager.
really.
It's not illegal for a teenager. It's more about the fact that if you're underage, you're not. I don't think
Isn't
you're allowed to disappear yourself in the sense like it's not illegal. You're not going to get charged
mhm,
you're allowed to run away. That's
mhm,
why they always say teenagers run away. Um, you can't. I guess you really truly can't be on your own. Um, if you're
mhm.
underage, and usually that's whatever the age of consent is. Um,
16, 16.
16 or 17, depending on the state,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
here
yeah,
in
yeah,
Canada, 16.
yeah.
Um, but it's not necessarily illegal. It's the wrong term to use.
Mhm.
But it with adults though, they'll always say that 9 times out of 10 though, really and truly, an adult is not choosing to disappear. That is not something that will always 9 times out of 10 happen.
Dep
So
Depends on the situation, though.
it
It
I'm
depends.
telling
Yeah,
you, as a
yeah.
person who watched 10 seasons of Disappeared, I
Mhm.
can name on 3 fingers the amount of times that someone has disappeared themselves.
I mean in real life, like they're probably like
But those are real life
families.
cases. Those are
Yeah.
real life
Oh, okay. You're
cases.
talking about.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
those are real life cases. That is not reality television. It's not a sitcom. That is the investigation discovery case, or show, I should say, of real
Mhm.
people. So those are, again, I'm saying three, but I think even that's generous of the amount of people who actually choose to disappear themselves. It just doesn't happen.
And eat.
You have to look at the surrounding situation. If someone is gone missing, but their
Mhm,
car is still in the driveway, their cell phone is still there, their keys, their wallets, everything is still in their home,
mhm,
you're not going to leave without your keys, your wallet, your phone, your car. Maybe your car. Maybe you'll leave your car,
mhm,
but you're not going to go without things where you can get through with. You know what
mhm.
I mean? You're just not going to do that if you're going to disappear yourself. So in cases like that,
Mhm.
which again, I don't know the situation with this because this was 60 years
Mhm.
ago,
Mhm.
but in cases like that, if someone is disappearing themselves like that, something's gone on. That's not disappearing themselves. Something happened to them. And you have to take that seriously. And I hear what you're saying, but in the
Mhm.
true crime universe, the narrative is, and that we're trying, as people are trying to put out there, and this is what I'm trying to put out here right now as well. Do not allow the police to tell you an adult can disappear themselves. You know you're a person. You know whether or not they would do that. You know them. The police officers do not. If that is something that is completely out of the norm for them, you need to speak up. You need to advocate for that person because
Mhm.
something could have happened to them. And that could mean potentially saving their life. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I hear what you're saying, but that is just not something we should be putting out there because police are allowed to say, eh. And that's just not, it's not what should be happening. There's
Yeah.
nothing saying you
No.
have to wait 48 hours before putting in a missing persons file. It's just
Mhm.
it's just not a thing. It's something police put out there, but it's not a thing.
Mm.
So we have to be careful with that because in this case, yes, she disappeared herself and it seems for a good reason, and that's fine. I mean, I question people who leave their children behind, but that's besides the point. She did what she had to do to protect
Mhm.
herself if that's what was going on.
Mhm.
But that's just not always what happens.
Mm.
So, and sometimes even that could be the case, but usually sometimes it's because someone hurt them. So, yeah, we got to be careful with that narrative. That's why I
Mm.
just don't want to put that out there.
Mm. Okay. All right. Okay. So this ends this episode of the Next Tape Podcast, episode 119. The Next Tape Podcast is available on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called Tanika.
Nexttakepodcast.podpage.io.
And where else are we at?
Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast, and Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Next Take Pod.
And you can contact us on our email at mikeltanika@gmail.com. That is mikeltanika@gmail.com. Okay. So we talked about like three topics.
Mhm.
Uh, uh Tanika, you wanna give them the overview?
Yeah, we talked about the little woman who disappeared herself. We talked about uh, what else did I talk about? Oh yeah, the casino that got
Mm-hmm.
charged for
Mm-hmm.
the collusion, and then we talked about what was the other topic? Hold on.
Okay.
Um.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, it's the Lost Boys of Pickering. That's what we talked about.
All right. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I have nothing else to say. That's it for me. I don't know if Tanika has any more things to say.
No, I don't think so.
All right. Okay. I'm Mikal, and
And I'm Danica.
we're out until
Hold on. I want to say Thursday, but it might not be right. Yeah, Thursday.
Thursday. Peace, guys.
Bye.